All right. Ladies and gentlemen of Luca Nation, boy, oh boy, is this a treat. Welcome back to the first episode of a new show or series or whatever you want to call it, Conrad Uncaged. And no, this is not a solo show. I actually have a fantastic co-host alongside me, Mr. Cage Lawyer. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. That's a great intro, man. Conrad Uncaged. We're gonna get a different side of Conrad. He's
Yes,
uncaged. I
exactly. So
love
this
it.
is This is going to be a bit of a shorter, 4 to 9 minute, like 10-minute sort of thing, which is good because I've been drinking a lot of water today, so I could use the bathroom as soon as this is over. But we're just going to be talking about one topic, giving our thoughts on it, initial thoughts, just back and forth banter sort of stuff like that. And today's topic that you guys wanted to pick out, which, by the way, if you do want to pick out the future topics, follow the Luca Nation Network on Instagram, and you can vote on the polls that we put up there once a week, and you can pick our topic. And the topic that the followers there picked today was PSA, and they're starting to get some more grading done faster. We're getting more PSA returns back, and some of that sort of stuff. So what sort of impact does this have on the hobby and stuff along that sort of
Yep.
line? If that makes any
100%.
sense.
Sam, so let me ask you, you
Yep.
ready? So PSA did an announcement, Nat Turner did a little announcement on there, and he put in, as of May 18th, we're completely caught up on logging stuff in, and that was like, boo, 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 trumpet out there, they're putting stuff back in. Is that to you the important part, that they're now logging the stuff in, or is it more important to you, especially as their June deadline approaches, that they're actually clearing some of the backlog of stuff? Logging in is one thing, but there are people who are waiting since they sent cards
Yep.
in June. What do you think?
I would probably say the backlog. I mean, it kind of depends on who you are as a person. If you have stuff that's currently in the backlog right now, or if you've been recently sending some stuff in, I would probably definitely say the backlog, though, because that's been their biggest issue for the past year, right? It's been trying to get over the hump of, the amount of cards that they have backed up right now, the amount of backlog that they have. And if they're not really making a huge push towards it, which, I mean, obviously they are. They've been hiring a ton of people and they've been cutting through that backlog faster. But if that's not what we're really discussing, or if that's not what's really being discussed by PSA and Nat Turner and those
Mm-hmm.
guys, I wouldn't say it's a bad thing, but it's a little bit irksome as, a
Yeah.
PSA customer, for many of the PSA customers out there. I'd like to know that the biggest issue that the company's having right now is getting closer to being resolved. And at the moment, it's not really being not advertised as such, but it's just kind of hard to tell how much of the backlog is actually being cleared at the moment. There's just no real way to tell, right?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, not only do we have some backlog, but when I sent cards in June, they were logged in July. By August, they were actually there. Like, they received them July, August, they were there. When I sent cards in October, they didn't get logged in until January. So you're talking about like 3 months to actually show up as logged in.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the fun. That means that they're not up to yet the biggest time of receipt of cards. So here's my big question for you, and this is why people, I think, pick this topic. And I want to hear Conrad Uncaged on this. If modern cards, the things that most people were sending into PSA, have already seen that steep decline over the last couple of weeks, last couple of months, what do you think happens when that influx in the next couple of weeks, months, quarters, when people start getting those things back, and it's all the cards that have already tanked? What do you think happens to the market there?
It's going to get pushed even further. Maybe not the entire market as a whole, although I wouldn't be really surprised, because the amount of supply is obviously going to be so much higher that it's going to really kind of create a chain reaction. But what I would expect from it would be this, right? The big thing, and I mean, obviously, I'm pretty sure that you're hinting at this. The big thing that we're talking about as far as cards that have tanked is base cards. The base market is pretty much dead. We're moving past that era of low pop, or not moving past that era, but moving into an era of low pop cards and rarity and stuff like that. Safer investments for the future. Whereas before it was just kind of flipping your base cards, right? And so now that we've seen base cards tank already, what I'm going to suspect is when a lot of people get their base cards back, they're just going to want to get rid of them, because they know that stuff is just, it does not really hold that much value. It's going to be a lot harder to sell. And so they're going to try to sell, their base cards. But because so many people are going to be trying to sell that stuff at once, it's going to be very hard to do so unless your card in particular, or your listing on eBay, is lower than the other listings currently on eBay. And when enough people start to realize that, the listings will start to get priced lower and lower and lower, therefore driving down the price of the base market, which in turn could drive down most of the modern market as a whole. I wouldn't be too shocked. Am I going to place money on like either side of that? I'm not sure which one's going to happen, but what I can guarantee is the base market is going to get pushed even further into the ground. It's just, I think it's pretty much inevitable. considering the huge influx that we saw, 6 months ago in terms of base cards being graded and bought and sold on eBay. It's insane.
So what do you tell the person who, I got a message like this today, who wasn't in it in 2018, didn't capitalize on the initial boom, but got in this past year, and all they did was open, buy, and send to PSA base cards? What do you tell them to do? Like, is there a play here for them? Do they just sell their stuff?
I mean, I think at that point it's becoming more of pre 2018 days, pre blow up days, where you have to understand the market. You can't just follow the huge hype and the huge curve that we've been seeing recently. You have to do your research, figure out which guys are going to be good, which guys are going to be bad, figure out which players seem undervalued, which cards or which sets may seem undervalued, and stuff along those lines. And you have to pick and choose what the right thing is. Now, one other thing that may come from, not being able to capitalize on the 2018 exponential curve that we saw is maybe you're left with a lot less money right now than you maybe could have if you had gotten in at that time, and you're wondering, how can I make more money in this market, or how can I cut my losses? And if you do have a bunch of base cards, my answer to that would just be sell as soon as possible. I don't think that there's much of another answer for that.
Yeah, the only thing I would say on that, Conrad, the only thing I'd say on that is, there may be some guys in the base craze that are getting beat up. You have to find that guy. You're 100% right. Do some research, right? So, if somebody who might get traded next year, somebody whose contract is up, is going to be moving to a different team, and you're able to buy their PSA 10s for, $20 or whatever it may be. I'll use my guy, Devontae Graham, as an example. You might be able to buy his stuff in the teens soon with the glut that's going to come back, and maybe he moves to the Mavericks or a team, and maybe, oh wow, he's paired up with Luka, and all of a sudden you can make money there. So there may be a play there for the right guy. You're going to have to do some research on that. And the last thing I want you to opine on this, because it's still the same PSA, layer on for me the double down impact of not just all this stuff coming back, but also what you're seeing in the market. Now, I'm not going to tell you you're behind the scenes. You're not Willy Wonka. You don't see the grades. You don't know that PSA is tightening up the stuff. But anecdotally, we're getting information from group subbers, from people who send the stuff, that it looks like PSA is grading a little harder now. Does that change the whole thing as well?
I think it might a little bit. I'm not completely sure what to expect, honestly. I think I'd probably have to give this some more thought before I gave a super defined answer. Overall, what I can say is it probably will. It may be very minor impact, but it would have an impact ultimately, because there's going to be a few people that may be sitting there with a couple of cards and be like, I feel like 6 months ago this might have been a PSA 10 or PSA 9. Now I think this may be a PSA 7. Or we may see group subbers getting less people in because other customers and other card flippers or collectors may start thinking, look, every time I send in 20 cards at once, PSA kind of gives me a couple of 10s and then a bunch of 9s, 8s, and 7s. Maybe I'll start doing some smaller subs so that way I can potentially get a higher gem rate overall. I wouldn't be shocked if that started happening. So overall, I think it will have an impact. I'm not completely sure in what manner it will or how large the impact's going to be, but just from what we can understand from the past and from basic human, what's the word? I'm not really sure how to phrase
human nature.
Human nature. Thank you. Exactly. Like, people are going to start to judge their own cards a little bit tougher because they assume that PSA is doing the same thing, and that's going to result in maybe less grades of cards in general.
Yeah, no, I like it. So, talk to me. We'll end it with this because I want to keep it short, obviously. Yep. And it's that class of people that also got in last year and they're grading their cards for the first couple of times. They're also going to come back now and have lower grades as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do we tell those people? How do we cheer them up and tell them to stay in the hobby?
Just give it another shot, I guess. I'm not completely sure if there is anything that we can say, unfortunately. It's tough to say, but
we'll probably lose some of them. But
there's no doubt that we will. But for those of you that stay in it, please do. It's a fun hobby. I know it sucks to kind of get burned on this one, but there's a lot of great cards that you can go out there and collect, and a lot of opportunities out there if you really do enough research. And if you're a huge sports fan, then it should be all the more reason to stay in. But
that's the point. That is it. If you're a fan, you're doing your research, you're buying the stuff you love, and the stuff that you think is going to turn into something, that's a different story, instead of just stacking up Cam Johnson Prism bases and saying, why not? It's free money, because it's not.
Exactly.
I love it. Conrad, this was awesome. I can't wait to do it again.
This was